Welcome to my How Healthy Are You weekly educational podcast. My name is Dr. Thomas Brewer. I'm a PhD chemist and nutritional blood microscopist. Today is October 25th, 2021, and this is podcast number 106. This podcast is going to be on brain-damaging habits. So I'm going to cover 5 of these habits. These are choices we make pretty much every day, and these choices often affect our brain, our cognition, our memory, even our life expectancy. So we already know about diet and the importance of diet, so I won't be going into diet that much except on the drinks side. And we also know that when we're sedentary, it's like smoking a pack of cigarettes. So I've talked about these in the past, the need to eat right and the need to move and exercise. So some of these things that I'm going to be talking about are going to be life-changing. And even if you just do or change 1 or 2 of them, remember it's never too late to start, especially for those of us with memory issues. So bad habit number 1 is accentuating or focusing on the negative. So this would be people that live on grudges and resentments, negative thoughts, and what it does, it puts you in a very pessimistic mood, and that is linked to a decline in your cognition or brain ability. Also affects memory, especially for people 55 and over. And if you think about it, how many older people do you know that are just sourpusses? They're always in a bad state. And then you wait a few years and you find out that these people have developed a debilitating disease like cancer or severe arthritis, and their life just goes into a spiral. There's so much of our health that is based on our mind and how we think and the things we say. So people that dwell on negative thoughts had a lot more amyloid plaques in their brain. So these are the markers for Alzheimer's disease. Now, not everyone that has negative thoughts is going to develop Alzheimer's, but it is a link in the chain, especially for other diseases than Alzheimer's. So here is 3 ways to stop that. All of these are extremely important. The first thing is have a routine of gratitude when you go to bed. So when you go to bed, think how great your day was, what you're grateful for. If you can just list 3 things that you're grateful for. It could have been you're grateful that you had a great dinner. You're grateful that you did some exercise that day. You're grateful that something went well at work. Just think in terms of gratitude when you go to bed. Then when you get up, be grateful that you woke up, grateful that you have another day to live, that you didn't pass away in your sleep. So that's a very good start. The second thing ties into breathing, and I'll talk about breathing in another part to come later. But taking deep breaths, this is where you're doing nose breathing and combining that with diaphragm breathing. Now, the reason you're told to take deep breaths when you're in a bad mood or something bad happens and you feel like you're focusing on the negative is you can't think of anything else if you're thinking about your breathing. The brain only allows us to think about one thing at a time. Now, you think you're thinking of multiple things, but actually you're flipping back and forth. So if you're focusing on your breathing for any length of time, and what I recommend is in through the nose, out through the nose, and when you inhale, your stomach expands. This is diaphragm breathing. If you just focus on that, you can't think of whatever the negative thought was. And then another technique, I don't do this as much. I normally do the first two, but also a good technique is when you have this negative thought, and if you get a lot of those, you just verbally tell it goodbye. It's just another way to take the negativity out of your body. You don't want it, you say goodbye to it. Okay, so that was the first bad habit. The second bad habit does link to diet a bit, and that's about sugary beverages, the wrong choices that people make. I'm still shocked that people still drink soda. So I talked last week about orange juice and store-bought orange juice and how nutritionally it's very similar to soda. So I had mentioned in 2017 that sugary beverage consumption is linked with our poor memory. So our memories decrease, our ability to remember events decrease. Also, our brain volume decreases. So my point is, don't drink sugary drinks. That would be sodas and the store-bought juices. Eat the whole fruit. So the concept behind this is sugary drinks like sodas and store-bought juices, they spike our blood sugar, and then our body has to respond to that elevation in blood sugar, which is glucose, to increase insulin. And it's the insulin spike, that's what hurts us. That's what leads to inflammation, and not only just inflammation in our bodies, inflammation in our brains. Not good for our brains. So like I said, whole fruits, if you want to have an orange, if you want orange juice, eat an orange. All right. Habit number 3 is about sleep. This is actually, in my opinion, the most important link to longevity. So quality sleep is crucial to having a sharp, productive mind. Sleep is something you must protect. You can't sacrifice it. You must give it the highest priority. So let's go into some of the ways you can have good sleep. So you want your room to be cool and dark. Now, that may go without saying. A lot of you probably already know this. Let's go into some other common issues. Sleep apnea, where people aren't getting enough oxygen, either due to snoring. The best way to heal that yourself, doesn't cost you anything. You must get into the habit of nose breathing. So I talked a little bit about that when I was talking about taking the deep belly breaths for habit number 1 when people were looking at the negative. Well, if you get in the habit of nose breathing, you will find that your sleep apnea goes away. So when you're not talking or singing, have your mouth closed and breathe in and out through your nose. Get into that habit, and you will have much less snoring and much less sleep apnea, and not having to wear some device on your face will help your sleep, meaning you want to naturally get enough oxygen when you're sleeping. So when oxygen levels decrease due to poor breathing habits when we're asleep, this damages our nerve cells. And over time, back to memory, it contributes to memory loss and cognitive loss. So something I teach in the office is called empowered breathing. This is a way to get lots of oxygen into the body. In fact, it's very, very healing, very, very anti-cancer, because cancerous cells do not like oxygen. Oxygen is very alkaline in this way. So if you're interested, I can cover that during either a blood microscopy or separately. A couple of other things to do. I've talked about this before, but I'm going to put them all together. Unplug the Wi-Fi when you go to bed. If you have Wi-Fi in the house and it's on a plugged outlet, put it in a plugged outlet that has a switch on the wall, and then you can just hit the switch to turn off Wi-Fi while you're sleeping and then turn it back on when you get up. If you have trouble falling asleep, it's your brain, it's your head, it's your thoughts. So what you want to do is procrastinate those thoughts. So you will delay thinking about those events and people until you get up in the morning. This will give you a double benefit. First, you'll be able to fall asleep almost immediately because you're procrastinating the thoughts, but you're not dismissing them. So when you wake up, those thoughts will come back into your head, and that will help you get out of bed in the morning. So you'll get a double benefit by procrastinating all those thoughts that run into your head, all those things you think you need to think about when you're in bed. Do that when you're awake. Okay. Now, if you wake up in the middle of the night, that's a hormone issue. One quick way to see if your hormone levels are a little low is to take DHEA. That's very good for those that are over 50 and expect that their hormones or suspect that their hormones levels are decreasing, and that's a way for one to make more of the primary hormones. So that's one way to see if you've got lower hormone levels. If you take DHEA and you stop waking up in the middle of the night, you solved the problem. Okay, habit number 4 is linked to medication. So a lot of drugs that people take are very bad for their brains and their cognitive ability. Most of these are in the antidepressant category. Some of them are drugs for an overactive bladder. Some of them are the antihistamines. But all of them affect a brain chemical. It's known as acetylcholine. And this chemical is very important for learning and memory. So my advice is to find alternatives. And if you need help with that, just ask me privately. But alternatives to these medications exist. And if you think about it, the reason we're taking a medication is not because the body has a deficiency in that medication. The purpose of the medication is to keep you alive and keep you functioning while you figure out the cause of the problem, the cause of the symptom, the cause of why you think you need that medication. The medication is something to be taken very short term. Okay. Now there are some exceptions, but 95% of the time the medication is strictly something that is to be taken short term until you figure out the cause of the problem. Okay, the 5th habit, very, very important, and it's about having a sense of purpose. So when we're younger, we have people relying on us, such as children, and we have responsibilities, perhaps earning money for other people in the family. And as we age, that sense of purpose tends to diminish as the children get older or as you get more and more confident in your employment position that you're not going to get fired or laid off. So you tend to relax a little bit, and you can also lose your sense of purpose. So what you want is to always have a reason to get up in the morning, knowing that there's people or events depending upon you. So you want the feeling that you are making a contribution to society. You're not just breathing air and eating food. You are contributing to society. You are contributing to life on planet Earth. So again, when you don't have a sense of purpose, the link is to Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's possibilities and Alzheimer's scores always increase when people don't have a sense of purpose. So always try to pick up new responsibilities. This is why a lot of elderly people get a pet. because as we all know, if you have a pet, you are responsible for that pet, and that pet depends on you for food and shelter and peeing and pooping. So it's a way to increase your sense of purpose. If you don't want to have a pet, obviously if you're older, something to do is to volunteer. Again, it's this concept of somebody being responsible, somebody depending on you for something. Some people start a small business, and their customers then get dependent on them. So that's what I have for this podcast. Please like, share, or post a comment. And as always, thanks for listening.